All right, let's go a little farther in here and see what we got. Okay, so Emerson says here, he says, virtues are, in the popular estimate, rather the exception than the rule, meaning most people aren't actually good. Many people, right, they're not actually good. There is the man and his virtues. Men do what is called a good action, as some piece of courage or charity, much as they would pay a fine in expiation of some daily non-appearance on parade. Their works are done as an apology or extenuation of their living in the world, as invalids and the insane pay a high board, meaning they pay high rent. Their virtues are their penances. I do not wish to expiate, but to live. To expiate is to like atone for sins, like you've done something wrong and you try to make yourself feel better. So he says here, the thing about people being good, is people will do good things. Men do what is called a good action, and as some piece of courage or charity, much as they would pay a fine. So he says, look, people will act good, but what they're really doing a lot of times is they're not doing good because they think it's good. They're doing it to like make themselves feel less guilty. And he says, that's not really that good. He says, if you're trying to like, if you've done terrible things, and if the only reason you do good stuff is to make up, because society will often make people feel guilty, right? So, for example, he's like, people will go to church not because they actually believe in God or they want to go, but to like make other people happy. Or society made them feel guilty about their sins, and so they'll go to church and work at the bake sale and try to help out. But what they're just doing that because other people are making them feel guilty. And they live their whole lives like they're atoning for sins. Expiation is atonement. But it's like they've done sinful behavior and they're trying to like fix it now. And he says that's how people live their whole life like that. He says, I do not wish to expiate, but to live. Meaning, I don't want to spend my whole life trying to like not feel, society made me feel guilty. Should I spend my whole, like, if society makes you feel guilty, are you going to spend your whole life trying to fix that guilty feeling by doing good works you don't even care about? Or are you going to live your life? My life is for itself and not for spectacle. Meaning, all right, I live my life for me, not so other people will pay attention to me. He thinks a lot of people are being virtuous because it gets them good attention from other people. But it's not real. He thinks it's fake. If you're doing things because other spectacle is related to it's watching, when you're being watched. So it says people do good things because they want other people to see them do good things, but they're not actually good people. I much prefer that it should be of a lower strain, so it be genuine and equal, than that it should be glittering and unsteady. So he wants something real, but like regular. He doesn't care about glittering and unsteady, meaning a lot of people will do flashy things, like they'll do challenges on social media that get a lot of likes. Like, are you living your life for the likes you get on social media? He's a lower strain wouldn't care about likes on social media. You would just do something because it was right to do, something genuine and equal. Because a lot of people do good things just to get attention on social media, just to get those likes and hearts and favorites. He says, I wish virtue to be sound and sweet and not need diet and bleeding, right? He wants to do something good, not like torture yourself because, the church decided you were sinful. I ask primary evidence that you are a man and refuse this appeal from the man to his actions. I know that for myself, it makes no difference whether I do or forbear those actions which are reckoned excellence. He says, people reckon, meaning people call some things excellent, but they're not actually good. That's not actually good behavior. Like a lot of people will say something is valuable, but he says it's not. I know for myself, it makes no difference whether I do or do not. Forbear here means do not. I know for myself that it makes no difference whether I do or do not those actions that people call good. He says, I cannot consent to pay for a privilege where I have an intrinsic right. Right? I'm not going to do all this. He's talking about penance. He's thinking about people in church who like spend their lives trying to make up for sins. Because Emerson's going to say, where did they get the idea from sin? Well, society, the church society, told them they were sinful and they believed it, rather than actually think, am I actually sinful? So like, for example, the church has an idea of original sin, right? This idea that all men are sinners, and then you have to spend your life doing good works to sort of make up for the fact that you were born a sinner. For Emerson, that's just something people made up, and then they told you. And if you believe that, then you're a follower, and your planet is revolving around their star, when you should actually be thinking, not accepting other people's definition of right and wrong, but thinking for yourself if it's actually right and wrong. He says, Emerson says, I don't want to spend my life trying to like make up for some sin that somebody says I have. He says, I want to live, and I want to be real, and I want to think for myself about the difference between right and wrong, and not accept other people's definition. Few and mean as my gifts may be, I actually am, and do not need from my own assurance or the assurance of my fellows any secondary testimony. The secondary testimony is attention from other people. He says, I know in here whether I'm good or bad. I don't need to do a bunch of flashy public things like go to church and take care of the poor and do all of this stuff. He says, because that's what people call good. He says, but I don't need that. He says, because I know right from wrong. What these people are trying to do is they're doing good so that other people will say, oh, he's a good person. And he says, that's not the right reason to do anything. That's not actually helping. Okay. All right, let's see what else we got. He says, what I must do is all that concerns me, not what people think, right? It's what I do that matters, not what people think about me. This rule, equally arduous in actual and in intellectual life, may serve for the whole distinction between greatness and meanness. If you're mean here means like not great, like low down. I know you're thinking about mean as being like rude, but here meanness means like regular averageness. It's like mean in math. And greatness here, so are you great or are you just going to be a regular person? Right? And he says that the difference between being great and being a regular everyday person is that you got to do what concerns you. Regular people just do what other people think they should do, but great people follow their own path and just do what concerns me. It is the harder because you will always find those who think they know what is your duty better than you know it. Right? And I don't think that requires a lot of explanation, right? I'm sure you guys know people who they think they know what's good for you, and they think you don't know what's good for you. But Emerson always thinks you know what's good for you. It's easy in the world to live after the world's opinion. It is easy in solitude to live after our own. But the great man is he who in the midst of the crowd keeps the perfect sweetness of the independence of solitude. Just looking, when you're out in public, it's easy to do what everybody wants you to do. And when you're by yourself, it's easy to do your own thing. He says the real, truly great people are able to do their own thing in public. In which case people might tell them, hey, don't do that. That's not how you make a song. That's not how you paint a painting. That's not how you live a life. You should be acting differently. When you're at home, it's very easy to just do whatever you want to do. And when you're in public, it's very easy to follow the crowd. He says the real great person is the person who can be in a crowd and still act like they're alone, making their own decisions for their own life. Yeah, okay. I feel like this is going pretty well. We're getting pretty far into this thing. I think this is getting easier and easier as we go. Okay, so I told you guys, all right, sorry, backing up here. Let's see what else we got. The objection to conforming to usages that have become dead to you is that it scatters your force, right? If you start doing what other people want you to do, other people's opinions, if you conform, it scatters your force. It loses your time and blurs the impression of your character. If you maintain a dead church, I'm going to stop here. The objection to conforming to usages that have become dead to you is that it scatters your force. It loses your time and blurs the impression of your character. So he says the problem with conforming is that it wastes all your time. So I'll give you a real simple example. In a lot of society, women are expected to look a certain way. They're supposed to have certain kinds of clothes and certain kinds of makeup, and I'm sure a lot of you guys know this. It takes a long time to dress the way is socially acceptable. You got to put a lot of makeup. Like I know people who like don't want to be on camera like this unless they have a lot of makeup on. That takes a lot of time. So why are they wearing all this makeup? Well, Emerson would say they're wearing it to conform with society's expectations. And if you do that, it takes a long time to put on makeup. It takes a long time to pick out the perfect outfit where everything matches. And Emerson would say that because if you're wearing your clothes and dressing up so other people will care about you, it becomes a huge waste of your time because you're spending all this time with your clothes and your makeup when you could be doing something more valuable, something that you care about. And instead, you're spending your time on clothes and makeup in such a way that it's eating up all your time to do this for other people. Now, by the way, I want to be clear. I'm not anti-clothes and makeup, but it's an example I came up with to think of Emerson. So, all right, I'll pick it up in the next video.